Good afternoon, everybody watching. My name is Alvin Smith from JNZ Group. I will be giving you guys a brief tour of how to create a customer on your reseller portal and how to create a SIP account with an associated DID or inbound number that is connected to said customer. So, first of all, if we click on our home button over here, then we will be presented with this page. And from here you can either click on customers over here, or you can go to the drop down over there and click on customers. You'll end up at the same place. So first and foremost, what we will be doing is we will be creating a customer or the customer's profile. And for that we click on the top left of the screen on add. And then obviously we can capture the customer's details. And a couple of practical things to keep in mind here is the email address you insert over here will be the notification email address. So any top-ups you do or anything like that where a notification email is sent, it will be sent to this address over here, but not to the BCC. So I'm just going to leave that blank for now unless Porter Billing complains. Before we move on, let's quickly look at the two billing methods we can look here. We can either do a postpaid billing method, which basically means let's say you give the client a credit limit of 5,000 Rand. In this case, the client will start off with an opening balance of 0 Rand, and that balance will grow until it reaches the credit limit. In that case, once the credit limit is reached, then the account will stop working, or the customer will get a message saying that all their funds are locked. Then the other way around, if we make it a prepaid account and we give them 5,000 Rands worth of credit, they will start with an opening balance of 5,000 Rand, and that balance will decrease until it reaches 0. And then at that point, once again, the client will get a message saying that all their funds are locked. So this is just a practical thing to keep in mind, especially for your accounting department. They can obviously choose how they wish to manage it. Me personally, I do not like working with the prepaid method. Even for my prepaid customers, reason being is if it is the prepaid method, then there is a limitation on the simultaneous amount of calls that can be placed. So in this case, what I do for if it's a proper postpaid client, then I give them a positive credit limit. If, however, it is a prepaid client, what I do is I will give them a credit limit of 0, and then what I will do is I will credit their account after creating it, which will basically push their starting balance into the negative, which is fine because it will still grow upwards until it reaches 0. Then once it reaches that 0, they'll get the message saying that all their funds are locked. And yeah, so let's create this customer. Click on save. Okay, so you'll see here off the bat it'll say that the credit is exceeded because there is no balance. For that's fairly easy to solve. We just click here on this little button and we are going to manually credit the account. So basically that means we're going to decrease the balance. And in this case, let's say I'm going to make it 50 Rand. I'll say done and done. And there we go. So now this customer has 50 Rands worth of credit. So now we're going to move on to the second step. I'm not going to touch on the rest of these options for this video, that I'll reserve for a later time. So the second step that we will be taking here is we will be creating an account or a SIP account. So that can either be done by clicking on accounts over here on the customer's profile, Or alternatively, if you go to the customers page, you'll see there is an account icon next to the customer's name. So you'll see in this case there aren't any accounts associated with this customer's profile yet, so it will show you a little empty icon over here. As soon as we create an account, then this icon will become a bit fuller. So for us to create this customer, we can create a SIP account with literally any name that's not taken on the system. So I can literally put in anything over here by the account ID, which will be the SIP username, and it will work. You will be able to register it. But it has some practical implications for outbound calling, which means you will have to, for example, manually set the caller ID. Otherwise, carriers like Vodacom and MTN particularly like to block these kinds of accounts. So what we do instead is we use, as the username for the SIP account, we are going to use the actual DID that the people are going to be able to call. So for us to get that name, first and foremost, what we need to do is we go to this icon over here and we click on DID inventory. Then we click on search to list the available DIDs. Then you can see we have 2 free DIDs over here. So these 2 we can assign to a client. And to do that, it's very simple. We literally just copy this field. There's nothing you actually need to do on this page except for just copying the DID that we will be using as the SIP username. So once we have that copied, we're going to go back to the SIP page where we're going to create the account, the SIP account. Add. And then we're just going to copy that in there. So this will be the SIP username that you will be using to register the account on whichever endpoint. After that's done, we will select the main product, which in this case will be the rate sheet. This will determine what the client gets billed for calling MTN numbers, off-net numbers, on-net numbers, the works. So that's the second step, and then the third step is to generate a service password. You can obviously put your own password in here as well, but it makes life easier if you can just automatically generate it. When it comes to your balance control, you can give it an individual credit limit. Just note, if you do this, you cannot change it after the fact. So that's why in practice we prefer to keep it as subordinate, which basically means it looks at the total available balance on the client's account or the client's profile, that 50 Rand that we assigned a bit earlier in this video. So once that's done, we click on save. And there we go. There we will have a message telling us that we have successfully added a new SIP trunk. And that SIP trunk happens to have the same ID as the DID. So now if we register that on an endpoint and we call this number from a cell phone, for example, then the call will route through to the SIP trunk. And you will also be able to see the registration status of the SIP trunk over here. And also just another note before I close off this video, if we now go back to the client's account or the customer's profile, and we can see this is populated now, but if we go back here, then what we will see is that there is now a DIDs tab as well, because we've assigned our first DID, and there it will be listed for your convenience. Cool. Thank you guys for watching. I'll post more videos as I go along.